Are you interested in real estate investing but not quite sure where to get started? Do you want to get the know-hows on creating ongoing passive income using the buy and hold strategy? Hi, I'm Janice Bowles, licensed realtor and co-founder of B Premier Ventures, a real estate development and consulting firm where we buy and beautify distressed real estate, renovate it, and resell for profit. With over 15 years of investing experience, B Premier has extensive knowledge in rural land development, fix and flips, and rental acquisitions. B Premier's current portfolio consists of properties within Florida and Virginia. Our firm's services includes investor project consulting, project management, and group coaching. For more information, visit our website at bpremierventures.com and schedule a complimentary discovery session or subscribe to our email list. It's free. Follow me on Instagram at Janice Bowles for additional real estate investing tips. B Premier Ventures, we buy and beautify.
Hey everybody, welcome to today's episode of Let's Do It Talk Show. It's your girl, Ladrin Howard Peterson, the CEO and founder of Do It, delivering on ideas and thoughts. And you know what I do in a nutshell, right? I help to turn dreamers into doers, and I do it from two aspects. I do it from the aspect of career development, resume writing, interview preparation. You're looking to change your job or you have an issue on your job, I am your girl. And then I also do it from a business aspect. If you're looking to expand your business, you're looking to start a business, or if you have some ideas and thoughts and don't know how to bring them into fruition, I am your girl. Here on the Let's Do It Talk Show, we were primarily created for the entrepreneur, right? Quickly, we realized that the entrepreneur is an entire person. So we talk about faith, we talk about finances, we talk about the future, and we talk about families and relationships. So today is a part of a series, right? So every year, annually, as we approach the holiday season, we know that people are missing their loved ones. So our series is Grieve, Heal, and Mend. And last week we talked about grieving. If you missed that episode, please make sure that you go back and watch it. And today we're going to be talking about healing. And then, of course, next week we'll talk about mending. Y'all know what I do. Before I jump into the show, I talk about my weekend. And boy, was it one. So it was very special because Thanksgiving was a part of it. So first of all, we gave a bracelet to my niece who's dealing with the loss of her 3 children. She really enjoyed that. Wanted her to have something for Thanksgiving. Y'all, my first time ever pitching in and cooking for Thanksgiving. So the lamb chops, of course, was the specialty that was asked for. And we walked away with none left. And I also cooked some greens, but I forgot the picture. My lovely family, my daughters, which I call my apples, my grandchildren, which I call my apples. But we had a fantastic time. We're going to show you a video during the break. It's a little bit different. Y'all just have to wait for that. But the grandkids put on a show. But it was great. My daughter and her husband have been together since they were 16. So his family comes together, my family, and it's all like one huge blended family. But we had a grand old time. And special part was going around the room actually talking about what we're thankful for. That was a very, very special part. But there you go. You see the family. Oh, this little thing I had a drink when I was in Cancun, and I'm trying to re-event it. And last but not least, I spent some time writing a part of this anthology that's coming out with Allison Daniels. So I had to finish up my piece, and I'll talk about that later. We have to have a topic about it, but mine is about anxiety. So we'll talk about that. But here with me today is one of my favorite people, the Reverend A. Colette Rice. Reverend Rice, how are you?
I'm wonderful, Ladrine. It's so good to see you.
Nice seeing you as well. Nice seeing you as always. It seems
I'm
like
good.
we have been zooming
I
for a
know.
moment right now.
I know. It's all good, though.
Yes,
Better
yes, yes,
zooming
yes.
than nothing, right?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So, it's hard for me to not introduce you properly. I know you don't particularly care for that, but I will say, Reverend Rice, in addition to being my darling friend, she is the executive pastor for Mount Enon Baptist Church, the best church on this side. She is an author, Wits and Wisdom, which is book filled with different sayings that I knew nothing about, but I have learned and grown and actually utilized them now myself. She's a teacher. I can go on and on and on and on about you, but most of all, she is like just a burst of energy and a burst of joy. So, Reverend Rice, today's topic, we're talking about healing the hurt. Healing the hurt. One of the things, like you always, since we started the show, every year you have annually come back and talked about grief in this whole process. One of the things that I love is that you talk about grief, right? So we definitely have to talk about grief before we can get to the healing. But one of your sayings is, while grief is a way that we must take, it's not a place where we have to stay. Like, for me, this statement is super duper powerful. So for our listeners, as well as I can gain some more out of it, let's unpack that, right? When you say that, what are you trying to convey to the listener?
Right. Thanks, Ladrin. I really appreciate you. I appreciate you inviting me, and I appreciate you addressing this most necessary topic here today. I think that the thing that's important for us to acknowledge is that we all grieve, right?
Right.
And so the fact that we all grieve as part of our healing process means we have to take the time to sit in it. Like, we have to acknowledge our grief. I think some people feel like it's easier, to avoid the pain than to deal with the pain. And I think because I know that it's important for us to heal, one of the great ways to do that is to actually just first and foremost acknowledge your grief, like acknowledge your hurt. It's okay to say, I'm hurting. It's okay to say, I'm not feeling good about this. It's okay to say, I'm in a lot of pain right now. It's okay to say, this hurts so bad, I cannot hardly deal with it, right? And I also think that it's important that we acknowledge that we don't just grieve one thing. Like, we always associate grief with the death of a loved one. But I think it's important, as we unpack our hurt, and if we're going to deal with our hurt and come out of our hurt, if we're not going to stay there, then we have to acknowledge the things that we grieve. And so I recommend just doing a list of the things that you grieve, the things that you miss, the things that are giving you, causing your anxiety, if you will, as you mentioned earlier. Make a list of the things that you once had that you no longer have, that you really indeed miss. And I think that's helpful.
Yes, and I totally agree with you on that. So in our book project, We All Grieve Differently, as a part of the foreword, you expanded this statement and further added to that, God's ultimate goal for all of us is the same, that we heal from our hurt. So let's use this thought as a transition to the conversation from grieving to healing. And by the way, again, I love that the whole quote all together. I love it. It has really blessed me throughout. And one thing that you probably don't even realize, but I'll share with you now. I have mentioned it before. So do you remember when I reached out to you about the candle project? And with my candle project, I consulted you, asked you, your thoughts. But because it was, when I filed my documents, I filed them based on whatever I'm talking about or what I'm doing. And it just so happened to be associated with the book We All Grieve Differently, so everything was titled Grief. So when I sent it to you, we got through the meat and potatoes, and then you was like, I'm just saying, I'm just offering it to you. You can do what you want to do, but are you calling this your grief candles? And I was like, At that point, I didn't have a name for the candle or the candle line.
Right.
But that helped me like in so many different ways. So not only did I adjust the candles and the writing of it, I adjusted my journal. So my journal actually comes out next week.
Oh,
And instead of,
congratulations.
thank you, instead of we all grieve differently, it's titled We All Heal Differently. And it was
There you go.
basically like because of you. And
I
what
love
happened
that.
was, so it wasn't always that title. It was
Right.
I'll tell you, it was the companion to We All Grieve Differently. That was the title of it all the
Mhm.
way for months, right? And I
Okay.
couldn't get through it. Every
Wow.
time I would go through and grief would keep on coming and I would have to put it up. Grief would come
Mm.
and I would have to put it up. And my publisher was working with me. She was like, so what happened was in the middle of a night, I had like a tough time with it. And I was like, I cannot do this right now. It's not that I don't have the time, I don't have the energy to do this
Right.
right now. I
Right.
put it away. When I
Mm.
went to sleep, it was just like heal, heal,
Mm.
heal. I couldn't wait to wake up and say, we're changing the name and we're doing all this. And as soon as I did that,
Wow.
everything flowed like butter. So
Mm.
different mindset. So I definitely thank you for that. And I'm excited
Amen.
about next week, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Healing,
Oh,
right?
right.
So
Right.
healing is a journey. It's such an incomprehensible concept.
Right.
Like we can't grasp it. It's hard to put your finger on, put your mind around, especially as it relates to you being in the middle of grief, right?
Yeah.
You hear
Yeah.
people talking about healing or you can't stay here, and we all
Right.
know that everybody goes at their pace, right?
Right.
But healing, how does one even begin?
Mm. Mm. Well, it goes back to, first and foremost, acknowledging it. I can't, get away from that space of us saying to ourselves that we owe it to ourselves to acknowledge our pain and even to sit in it for a moment. Like so many times, even in Christendom, we're taught fake it till you make it. And, God is good all the time. And that is true. But oftentimes we think we can, you know, dismiss, affirm it away, say certain things out of, routine and cliches that we think are going to, um, um, you know, set it aside, push it away. But at the end of the day, grief has a way, and we always say this, it's going to insist that you take notice.
Yeah.
Grief is going, and it's gonna, and it will do that through Ladrin. We know it. Like those of us who seek and desire to be healthy, and we'll talk about that later when we talk about triggers and things like that. But at the end of the day, when we acknowledge it, that when we're okay with saying, as I said earlier, I'm not okay. I'm not okay. I'm feeling, some kind, I'm losing sleep. What, yourself, right? You know
Very well.
yourself, and you know when you're in a bad way. And I think a lot of times, because we've learned to function in our dysfunction, right? We've
Right.
learned to take a licking and keep on ticking.
Right.
We've learned, keep press on. I'm pressing on, and we have to do all of that. But you cannot do that without acknowledging, that this is bad. I mean, a lot of times the world keeps moving, and that's the hard part about our grief, right? That's why, when I think about the old, in our culture and why we did things, and this is why I'm sure for those who suffered grief, you're one prime example during the pandemic where we could not walk out, what we've learned to do that helps us to process the pain that we're dealing with through the wakes, right? We call them viewings now, but in the old days they were wakes, and we would sit in that space. We would sit on the bench and we were allowed to mourn. We would sit with the body. I remember when my grandmother passed, her body laid in, you know how they lay in state, right? Her body laid in the house for several days, right? And we were, you know, people came by the house and they did all the things we do at the repast, but they did it in a slower way. And that was intended for us to have that space to sit in, you know, our pain. So, and it helps you, it forces you to acknowledge it, right? If it's the death of a loved one, then it forces you to acknowledge they are gone, right? And then you have to kind of say to yourself, you wake up and you're like, am I just, you know, whoa, I hope this was a dream. When you wake up, you're like, I hope this was a nightmare. And then you're like, it wasn't a nightmare. They're gone. Right. And so acknowledging that acknowledgement is really a major step in that process. That's how it begins.
Okay. Faith, right? Faith. What role does faith play in healing?
Well, you know, faith, I mean, I can't say anything, but if you don't, I say this all the time. Every time I experience my own pain, I thank God for being God, right? I'm always saying, I don't care what I'm going through. I don't care what's happening around me. When I wake up in the morning, in the center of it all, when it seems like everything is falling apart, when this world just looks like it's, you know, it's the lowest of the low, and then it finds another rung, you know, on the low level. I remember that God is on the throne. That's my constant affirmation. And that is on the real. Like, that does not waver for me. That never wavers for me. God is on the throne. So that's what your faith does, because your faith then insists, right? It requires that we trust God in all things, even when it hurts, even when we don't get it, even when we don't understand it, even when we wish it didn't happen, even when we don't think it was fair, even when we think we were wrong, even when we think it was wrong. When the struggle is our reality, the greater level of reality is that God is higher, God is greater, God is supreme, right? God is sovereign. He can do what he wants to do, how he wants to do, when he wants to do it, and he does it without consulting me. And then I rest on, you know, Romans 8:28, right? That we know, for we know. There's a whole lot of things you don't understand, and you don't know what's happening right now. You don't know what's going on tomorrow. You don't know what just took place, right? But what we do know is that all things work together for good for those that love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. Your faith, if you don't have faith, I feel sorry for you.
Like, that's a whole sermon right there. So honestly, I'm trying to contain my composure.
That's all right.
This, I'm telling you, faith, if it were not for my faith,
all right,
and not just my faith, but my level of faith of the incremental times in my growth over the last couple years.
Right.
I don't know. I honestly, sincerely don't know. And I pray. So I pray all the time, right? So my prayer is for those who don't have a relationship with God. Like, how in the world can they get through this without understanding? Oh my God. So we're going to get off of this because it'll mess up the entire show. Because this right here is through my journey.
Right.
Like, I know that is nobody but God could have helped me. Like, I call you, you pray with me. Right. And that helps to get me through my little moment, right? I have other people that I can connect with. And Lord knows I'm so grateful. I attend the grief and sorrow session in Mount Eden every month. That helps me. It gets me through that little bit. But I'm trying to tell you, if I did not have my relationship that I have with God, I would not have made it through this one. I would not have made it through this one. I do the comparison of all of the previous ones, and even going back to November 2019. I go back to all the times of lost sleeps for days and days at a time, not being able to function. my mother and my sister, if it wasn't for God by my side, hold,
Right.
not even by my side, but having me cuddle in his arms,
Mm.
I would not have made it. So
Right.
faith is so important to me, and I like, even though like in certain circumstances this conversation is very tough for me, very hard,
Mm.
like grief for years and years and years, um but I know that it is my responsibility to
Right.
share my testimony, because
Right.
God used me as a vessel. He let everybody see like little old me before, crybaby, falling over the caskets and all of that stuff. And now everybody's like, how? And I keep telling them, I don't know how. It has nothing to do with me. But that's God's grace.
Mm.
God's grace. And Lord knows He has definitely laid one on me. And I'm so appreciative for that. All right, so we got to move on. We got to move on. So hope. Hope. You can
Right.
have faith, right?
Right.
Quote
Right.
all the scriptures and do all the things you need to do. But when you get hit with something and you have to go through it, it take a little bit more. You got to go into it. So let's talk about hope. Hope.
Right. Right.
What role does hope play in healing?
Yeah. Yeah, that's really deep. It's ironic that you should say that. I would like to mention that hope is the first pillar of Advent. That's We're in the season of Advent. Yeah, starting yesterday.
Yes.
And ironically enough, hope is the first pillar in Advent. And I mean, really about understanding that we're here for a purpose, right? And so when we get that, then we know that it goes back to what we just said. It's working together for good, right? And so the idea is that God is up to something. And that reassures us. That lets us know that, okay, in the deepest, darkest hour, God is doing something for me. I like to think of it is that, there is, and we have to acknowledge, Ladrine, that there's purpose in our pain. Right there. I know we would like to think that we could go through this life and it not serve any purpose, but God doesn't waste anything. God doesn't allow us to go through things if it's not I believe that all roads lead to purpose, right?
Yes.
And oftentimes on the other side of our hurt is our healing. But we cannot reach that. We said it was a journey, so we can't reach that if we don't have hope that tomorrow is going to be a brighter day. Tomorrow is going to be a better day. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. So we hope for the morning joy. We hope for the we have an eschatological point of view. We have a view for the end because we know God has made some major promises, right?
Right.
He told us, we've been studying Thessalonians in Bible study, and right, and to the church at Thessalonica, we talked about how they were in pain and how they were struggling because their loved ones were leaving.
Right.
And Paul said, we do not grieve as others that have no hope. Right? We grieve in a different way. Our grief is different. We grieve, but like you said, it's as difficult as it may be, even momentarily traumatizing and painful. We have a hope and assurance that there'll be a reunion. We have a hope and assurance that that God will be faithful to His promises to dry our tears. We have the assurance that there's going to be a reunion, that we'll be reunited with our loved ones. And at the end of the day, on the other side of our hurt, there is our healing. And because we know that oftentimes, look what God's birthed out of you, in your grief. Like He's not going to waste that. There is ministry that is birthed out of our misery, right? So we may experience misery, but on the other side of that, right? God is doing something big. He's doing something amazing. And so the hope is in understanding, resting on Jeremiah 29:11. I know the thoughts that I have towards you, thoughts of good and not of evil. I have an expected end and a future for you. Therein lies the hope, right?
Yeah.
When He told Joshua, okay, Moses is dead. Moses died. Oh my God, the whole nation is grieving because Moses is dead. But don't forget, don't forget I have this promised land over here. This is what you need to hope for. The hope then allows you for real to keep
Right.
putting one foot in front of the other, because there's something on the other side of through that's going to be amazing, that's going to be great, and it's going to be for your good, but more importantly for his glory, right?
That's it. That's it. That's it. So it's almost like you would think you hung out with me this weekend as I was writing
Okay,
my
okay,
chapter for this book. So
okay.
I talk and I openly share and
Mm-hmm.
convey my journey with anxiety, which was really, really, really bad. And so I have a therapist going through therapy, of course, with the loss of my sister and my mom.
That's
But
good.
with this, I am finding so many different rooted issues that I never even realized or just
Right,
push them away. So
right.
anxiety was one of the huge ones. So and I talk about it a lot throughout my years of grieving so hard when people pass away. I would have like severe anxiety. I would
Mm,
have to be off work. It could be up to one
mm,
month, and I
mm.
couldn't sleep. I couldn't focus. And you know me, I'm a get your stuff done, do it type
Right,
of
right,
girl.
right,
So it would like
right.
drive me crazy just sitting in the bed. And I never lost hope through all of that. I never lost hope. As I was laying down, the thing
Mm,
that I will always say as I'm looking at the ceiling, it would be so in my room, I have high ceilings, and in my room, there's a window where the light comes through. So at night, it's dark.
okay.
I would be like, Lord, all I need to do, just get me through daylight. Get me through
Mm.
daylight, and I know that I will be okay. So that was my prayer. Where
Yeah.
it may sound small, that was my
No, it
prayer. Because
doesn't. No, that's
when that
major.
daylight, I didn't know, I couldn't, time wasn't a thing. So it
Right.
would just be me laying there, no music, no anything. And it will come when daylight come, I would have my
Mm.
sense of time, and I would be okay, and I would know that I made it to yet another day. So that was
Wow.
huge for me. So as
Wow.
I go through this whole anxiety, and you talk about hope, and you talk about Jeremiah 29:11, that's one of my favorite verses. But I also have learned over this past year in my studying Jeremiah 1 and 5. Like when you
Oh,
go back, like we skip up to Jeremiah 29:11, and that's the cutest one. That's the one. It has very deep meaning, but we say that one. But when you go back to Jeremiah 1 and 5, and it tells you, God tells us He knows us before we were formed. So
right.
our life was already designed before we were born, before we were even conceived in our parents, in our mother's stomach. So the thing for me is that God knew everything that He was going to take me through to get me to this point. But here it is. And this is going to sound crazy, but I mean this with all everything. I thank God for my pathway. I thank God for the hundreds of deaths that I went through. I used to pray and be like, count it all joy. How can I count joy about all these hundreds of funerals that I went to and that I've gone through? I started counting them up over my lifetime, and I stopped. Started counting up the people that and I stopped. It was just so overwhelming. It would be 25 in one year. And so it became overwhelming. But here's where, oh my God, I got a blessing in some type of mighty way. If I had not gone through all of those, and all of them meant different things to me. And my best friend, of course, that was one of the hardest one. When my baby cousin Ladrin passed away, that was like hard, right? My little namesake, and she was a baby. My little cousin Erica, my cousin, and my uncle. So all of these things, and my mother is one of 13. All
Mm.
10 of the males had passed away, right? And my mother was the 11th. So imagine all of this that I had to go through, all of this heartache, all of this pain. All of these times my mother was there to comfort me. So when my mother passed, who's going to
Right.
comfort me? right?
Right.
The Holy Spirit like says to me, God.
Right.
God. So had I not gone through those, I would not have been able to understand my transition. When I went through my cousins, it was hard, but over the years and Bible study and all of these things, I learned and I understood that was the only way that I was able to be able to accept like what's going on with me. So count it all joy has a whole different meaning for me, right? Whole different meaning. So all right, let's do this because like I need to wipe my nose, right? So let's do this. Let's go to a quick commercial, and we're gonna do it a little different. So I'm gonna show a quick commercial of my apples. So my grandchildren for Thanksgiving, they put on a show like back in the show, Ladrin, like we used to do our little dance and everything. These little ones, we had a showtime and everything. So I'm gonna let the video roll a little bit, but check them out.
Okay.
Yeah, we welcome to Thanksgiving. We welcome to Thanksgiving. We welcome to Thanksgiving. Let's go. You already know I'm giving with the bivin. Man, how you thankful for? Man, what you thankful for? I'm thankful for my family. Man, what you thankful for? I'm thankful for my family also. Man, you already know. Man, keep it on the floor. Man, it's Thanksgiving. Keep being brave. Man, you already know we coming for save. Marie, man, you already know my tree. Man, you can't play with me. I'm the savory. Man, can't play with the bloater. Man, let's go in the soda. Man, you already know. I'm like a baby Yoda. Yeah, I'm the baby Yoda. Man, pin ski. Man, let's go and go to feet. I'm about to hit you with the street. Man, get back in the field with the stove. I'm gonna hit you back in the row. Hey, go. Hey, wait, what? You think that I am dumb? Nope. I'm the GOAT. We try to play, I'm gonna make that boat flow. This is only the intro, so don't get excited. Think I can rap? Is that a threat? I'm making you sick. We'll go to the vet. You wanna race? Bet. Cause I run track like Usain Bolt. I just go fast. Came in the party. I heard some cat. Your music is trash. I get the bag. You wanna fight like World Clash, like their nose. You won't get snapped. You a little duck. Boy quack. I'm good at Fortnite. I don't need a rap. Turning off in a fast car. Eminem, I got fast bars. I hop in that ship and go to Mars. For the end game, we catch up. I wanna go to Mexico. Got them nachos and them tacos. I'm in the back seat.
Hey. So I'm serious. Like they really got down. For Christmas, I need to buy them some studio time or something. But they are so hilarious. So hilarious. Quickly, everybody, please make sure that you follow us on all social media platforms. We are Let's Do It Talk Show on Instagram, on Facebook, as well as subscribe to our YouTube channel, Let's Do It Talk Show. Coming up, so I briefly talked about it, but right now, also, before I go to that, right now, we all grieve differently. Amazon is having a special. So if you haven't already purchased that, go get it. It's on sale through them, not through us, through them. So get it through that way so you can get it at the cheaper price right now. And then my project, We All Heal Differently. So I'm so excited about my journal. So in addition to the journal, there are candles that will be accompanying it. And as I mentioned, change the title from We All Grieve Differently. I thought it was very important for people to focus and understand in that mode when they are ready, the whole thing of healing. So it has prompted prompts so that it will help you with your journaling, and you'll see some quotes from some people who are dear to me, and also some other famous people. But I wanted to create a journal that would be helpful for me, right? So many times I buy journals and it has a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and a little bit of that. So for this one, it was like, I wish I had space to just write my feelings. I wish I had space to express my thoughts and how I'm feeling today. I need a good verse. I need a good song. So it's packed with so many things. And at the end of it, there is a mending toolkit. So I'm so proud about this project and can't wait to launch it next week. So back to the show. So thanks everybody for tuning in. So let's jump back into the discussion, Reverend Rice. So in your personal experiences, because yes, me and mine is like fresh and new. Like in fact, I just came about the 1 year mark for my mom. But you have also gone through a number of things, and the transition of your father, and then also your mom. So, in your experiences, what are some mechanisms or some things that you have done or are doing that you attribute to where you currently are on your healing process?
Yeah, that's good. Um, First of all, congratulations on your project. I'm so
Thank you.
excited about that. That's
Thank you.
amazing. So looking forward to seeing that come out. Yeah, it's interesting. I think everybody has their own, it's no cookie cutter, right? And so I'm grateful that you said my. You mentioned earlier as we talked about the things that, what role hope plays in that. And so I think for me, it's really been about holding on to hope. The other thing is holding on to legacy, right?
Mm.
Like the things that really kind of bring when I'm starting to, get a frown, the way to turn that upside down, if you will, is to think about the amazing deposits that my mother and father made, in me. The things that they left me, the amazing memories. And I know that's not everybody's story, and I'm not suggesting that, my life has been a perfect life or anything like that, but it's been a
Right.
wonderful life. And God has really blessed me with amazing parents. And so, whenever I'm feeling some kind of way, the way that I kind of get through, this and I'll be honest with you, we like people say, okay, you get over it. Well, when you love deep,
Yeah.
you're gonna feel deep. So to say with for in this year, it'll be my father passed in 2000,
Mm.
right? And I mean, we talked about this even last year before, but it was a traumatic death. He was killed in an automobile accident. And so, you know, that the sudden, death syndrome, I think is something that just kind of comes back, missing them, is always a recurrent. We just went through Thanksgiving and,
Yeah.
how
Whew.
do I do that? What do we do? I do the things that, they did that they left with us. I made the dishes, we do the things, we say the prayers, we give gratitude. You talked about, the best part of that was really sitting around seeing family. They
Yes.
made that deposit in us, the love for family and all of those things. So legacy. And then, continuing to trust God for my healing. This year is 7. I see it as a year of completion, from a spiritual perspective. And, with my mom, I'm probably in a better place than I've been, but that was traumatic. And like you said earlier, the whole reality of, knowing that they're gone. Even when you're dealing with paperwork, you got to go to orphan court. Your
Mm.
paperwork, you look at it, it says orphan, and I'm like, I ain't no orphan. But these are the things that you have to process. And so constantly trusting God for my healing. And then I think the last thing I would want to say to, for the journey is making sure that you ask God to give you divine relationships. You have to have people in your life that don't drain you,
Yeah.
but give deposits. So they make deposits rather than drain you. I think that makes all the difference in the world. The dream
Yeah.
in our healing.
Yeah, everything that you said, definitely on point. That last comment that you made in terms of relationships and making sure that people don't drain you. I
Mm.
know it's hard. Like every time I say this, you laugh, but I'm serious. I am an introvert, so being an introvert, don't do that.
Okay,
Don't do
okay,
that.
I'm teasing. I'm just
But
teasing.
but like being an introvert,
Mm.
um, one of the hardest parts, but yet rewarding,
Mm-hmm.
was my circle. Like, people really,
Mm.
really poured out to me, and it was it was challenging for me because I was still like in the shock stage of one behind
Right.
another, behind another, behind another. So I didn't even have a chance to really take in all that
Right.
was happening, right? And so
Right.
when people would reach out, and it was since all sincere sympathy, but it
Mm-hmm.
was overwhelming. Like, it
Mm-hmm.
was so overwhelming. Every time I moved, the door would ring with flowers or
I know.
something. And don't get me wrong, I'm appreciative of it, but it just kept meaning here's grief, here's grief, here's grief. It just was overwhelming. It turned around. So at the end of it, I ended up having 97 cards. And I have a long table in my breakfast room. I placed these cards there one by one by one by one, and then the memorial gifts. The same thing that was annoying me at one time turned out to be like an overly blessing. When I
Right.
walked into this room, no matter what was seeping in, it would give me a sense of peace. When I said something to you first, you mentioned that the plants, peace lily. Oh no, I don't even like plants. When I tell you now, these plants are my little babies. Like, let me water them. But it was so like serene. And even
Right.
when I got to the point of, okay, let me take the cards down. Let me send out these thank you. I had a moment. I put the cards back up. I was like, it was my safety net. But like, being an introvert, it was so tough. And then it was COVID. So nobody was coming in my house. If people
Right.
came, they probably thought I was being extra, extra funny. I would meet them like, yeah, okay, thank you, and that sort of thing. But
Right.
it's so many things of how God places you. On one hand, I'm grateful that it was COVID. I think that I think that it would have been more different for me. I had to sit in what I was going through, and it allowed me to have that one-on-one space with God.
Right.
Girl, you
Right.
talking about
Quiet.
praying? I probably like went through the Bible and all the Bible verse plans and everything. But in my moments, whenever I felt myself slipping, that's where I would go. That's where I would go, and it built me up to a point of satisfaction. But when you talk about relationships, I felt myself pulling away from everybody, and it wasn't anything negative. I needed to go through what I went through, and I was off work for 6 months. So it was just like so many things that were going on, and I had to make sure that I stayed in God's face, and that's what it really allowed me to do. And
Right.
I still haven't sent out the thank you calls. My goal was to send it out by the first year anniversary. That's like the toughest thing for me. Every time I get to writing, I be like, nope, not yet. Nope, not yet. So
Not today.
they may get them 2 years, they may get them 5 years, or however
Um,
it ends up going. But yeah, so that part about relationships, just I felt me going back to my old little this
right.
my circle. Like, my circle is like
But
so
you know what,
small.
Ladrine, I think that's important. And for somebody who may be listening, I think it's really, really critical that we understand that, when we want to, minister to people, I'm very different. You know what I mean? Some people, they in your face, and I guess because I've been where I have been, I take more of a, give people space. I think it's important to give people space. I
Yeah.
think that, it's okay to check in, tap in, check on their needs and things like that. But you said something that's very important, that every time, there, and I'm not saying don't call, I'm not saying don't check in, but I'm saying pace yourself. Like, don't feel like you can fix it for that person. Just feel like, if I need to just walk with you, I can walk with you in silence. Stop feeling like you got to say say something. Stop feeling like you got the answer for it. Stop feeling like, you have to heal it. Your job is not to heal that person who's grieving. You may console them. You may bring them, something in that moment, but also understand that you can poke at people's pain and not even realize it. Because you can, really, you can poke at people's pain. And that can be a very, very traumatic thing. Is like ripping the band-aid off again, taking the scab off again. And so I think we all have to be very sensitive to who we're dealing with. If you really care about someone, reach out, leave a message, and then let it go. Don't call them 50 million times, and don't feel like, you have to give people space. You have to give people space.
And it definitely like taught me as well. Because depending on what relationship I have with the person, sometimes I may have been overbearing or may have poked with someone pain unintentionally. So I learned so much like through this whole process. I learned so much. So memories, triggers, and reminders. Like we all have them. It doesn't matter if it's 1 day, 1 month, 1 year, 10 years, 10 months. We all have these. So some of them like come in the form of comfort. They're good memories and they make you laugh or make you smile, but not all of them. Some of them not so good memories, not so good triggers. So what are some strategies that you will offer to help overcome some of those not so good triggers or reminders that surface?
I think it's really important to understand that you are in control. Like you really have to be able to, and when I say that, I mean that in a very endearing way, that you have your mind, right? You are in control. Your perspective, right, is exactly that. It's yours. And you can take a space like a trigger, for instance. I always think about things like music. Like we talk about other people poking at your pain. You can poke at your own pain. Right? You can do things that are not healthy. I always often use the term, and you hear it often, but it's really about good grief. Good grief. Ask God, pray for, that I do this in a good space. If you know that there's certain music that's going to take you to a place that, music can heal, but music can also take you to a bad, like if you're in a bad breakup, you don't want to start listening to all of those songs, right? That take you down the wrong lane, right? So you're in control. After my father passed, I remember for like at least 3 months. And I had a long commute. I worked in Virginia at the time. And at that time, I said it was 20 years ago. So we didn't have Audible and, that kind of thing. And I used to listen to music on the way to work. I stopped listening to music because I couldn't control what they were playing. Right? And so I stopped listening to music probably for about 3 or 4 months because that was a trigger. And I knew that could send me to the wrong place. Your thoughts. I mean, a lot of times you'll have thoughts and they're not good thoughts. Or you'll get into, pity parties, right? We can have pity parties. And I'm not saying, I hope, you get that when I say that I'm not saying, don't allow yourself to grieve, because I think you should. But I also think we need to be careful that we don't take ourselves down, the wrong. If you got bad habits, like if like you don't want to lose yourself in the bottle. You don't want to start drinking. You know what I mean? If you get a bad memory or something. And if you're prone, to drink or whatever, that might lead you to, do unhealthy things. So whatever you can do. So one of the things I think with triggers is to understand prayer, that you, first of all, again, acknowledge. So when you feel something raising up, right? That you know is contrary to God's will. We talked about the word. That's where the word comes in at, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
so Second Corinthians, the 10th chapter, tells us that we have to take every thought captive and bring it into obedience to God's word, right? And so we know that he said, okay, if I'm mourning, if it's, 7 years and, after a certain point and I was still, having really some strong, intense feelings about my mother's passing, even my dad's passing, I had to take those thoughts captive and remember, you know what I mean? That God promised me beauty for ashes. He wants me to have, joy for a spirit of happiness. He doesn't want me to walk in sackcloth and ashes forever. There is a time, right? And that's the very scripture we used when my father passed was Ecclesiastes. There's a time and a season for everything, a purpose for everything under God's earth. So taking those things and bringing it in, reeling it back in, is this the place that God wants me to be? No. Is this a healthy space that is my head space right now? Is this, a healthy place? And you bring it back in. So you take it captive, right? Because the thoughts can be a stronghold in our lives. Right.
Yeah, that's good. That's like really good. And I always talk about a mindset, right?
Yeah, there it is.
Like your headspace really can dictate like the whole mode and the whole trajectory of where something goes. And that's very critical for people to understand. So even in the midst of your sorrow, right? Because you're going to have that. I don't know, like despite who, what, when, why, or where. But it comes in different forms. It comes in different forms. So as you're going through it, you have some control over it. People be like, I don't have, it's some things you don't have control over, but you have control over some things. And so one of the things that I have managed to do, because triggers, oh my God, when I used to do my mom's grocery shopping.
Okay.
Oh my God. So, my whole little cooking thing, I would go in the grocery store like 11:30. It closes at 12. So I would be the only one in there.
Okay.
Girl, I would pass by them greens. Oh my God. I remember having to go and leave out of the store. Certain songs. So at my mom's and my sister's memorial, I won't complain. Oh my God. So playlists. I listened to playlists, Amazon playlists. Somehow I didn't hear all the time. That song didn't pop up as much as it do. Now it seems like it pops up. It's in heavy rotation. And at first, I would be running Alexa, like I would be trying to get to it. But now I embrace it. Right? I embrace the words to the song. And it's so many different things. I still have a struggle with the songs during my sisters. I used to, every other day, going up, back and forth, John Hopkins. And on my ride, it would be the same songs because I would go on my playlist. Like, those songs are hard for me. And then one other thing, talking about songs. Marcus. So Marcus from Mount Enid, he sings every Sunday, right?
Yeah.
And he also sang at their services. So I'd be like, oh my goodness, like I'd be like saying, don't go in hard, Marcus, don't go in hard, because he'll go in and you'll feel it, and it'll just take me to a whole different level. So triggers are, you cannot avoid them, but finding the way to embrace them. And that's what I have done. Like the last one I'll talk about before we move on, vacations. My mother was my traveling partner.
Too.
And we had like our routine things, right? She would pop on any other trip, but for sure we did two. We did one to Massanutten every year, and we did one, I took her wherever she wanted to go for her birthday. Right. So at Massanutten, my niece just so happened to come along with me. I'm doing my little walk trail that I always do through the community. I get to this point and I'm like, oh dang, let me figure out what me and mom gonna do when I get back. Like, what we gonna do? I got 2 steps and I said, mom not there, you know? And I was like, uh-oh, here come that big cry right now. But immediately, laughter, happy memories came and it diverted it. And I put my pep on in my step and was so appreciative for all of the visits that we had there. My mom's birthday is next Monday. I scheduled a trip. Like, I was like, you scheduled a trip. We have something. So when I tell you, my mind is still like, she's here. I know she's not here. But I just plan along and do the things that we did, like in terms of it. But then I will remember. So triggers are like unavoidable, but you can manage them by trying to figure out a way so that when this comes, do this, or you think these happy thoughts, or you train your mind, embrace the sadness, right?
Yeah, if you feel like crying, go. I mean, nothing like a good cry. I mean, God gave me tear ducts. That's the way I always look at it. So I don't mind cry. Good cry will make you feel a whole lot better. So go on and have a good cry, but then, get on up, think about the thing. I always think about the deposits, what would she, I'll think oftentimes like, what would she do? Because my mom was tough. I mean, she was tough. Sweet as she could be, but tough too, because they were made of a different cloth, you know. She would be like, girl, you better get yourself together and get on up and do what you got to do, you know. So that's always encouraging for me too,
Speaking of encouragement, so we have 2 more points I want to hit upon.
Okay.
And the next one is encouragement. So in terms of encouragement, what are some things that someone who is grieving could do to support others and or provide encouragement to themselves while on their healing journey?
Yeah, I think you're modeling that in your own life. I mean, when you give, the Bible says, give and it shall be given unto you. We always think about that as tangible things. But I think when life is for the living.
Yeah.
Right? And God, we're here. God works through human agency. I'll never forget when my father first died and I had just started in ministry. And every time somebody died, Pastor Neil at the time, God rest his soul, would always send me out to minister to them. And I'm like, golly, like I'm going to get in front of them and I'm just going to be crying, but he would, what I realized later, I didn't get it in the moment, but I realized that he was using me to come out of myself, so that I could see somebody else's pain and seek to minister in whatever way, very simple, tangible way, making lists, bringing some water, bringing, like you said, doing things that they need in that moment or whatever, but do something. So I would say, if you're grieving right now, the best way to usher yourself into your healing is to do something for somebody else. Do something for somebody else.
So, oh my God, it's so many pieces that I can add to this, but this, like, the encouragement is something like that's near and dear to my heart right now. Couldn't understand it, but I'm finding my way by and by. So, first my mom, then my sister, then of course all about my little medical issue, and then my great nieces, right? Yeah. So with that, let me tell you, I was actually doing my show when the messages and everything had come through, because I don't really check my inboxes, and my niece inboxed me because of the time. So I missed it, and I saw it in the middle of the night. My heart immediately dropped, right? And the Holy Spirit whispered to me, help her. I was like, that ain't the Holy Spirit. Help her? Like, help her? Like, no. Like, I was like, no. It was like, help her. Like, you've gone through this. You know the order. in the morning, early, 6 o'clock, reached out, prayed, did all the things, and I was like, let me know how I can help you. So this takes us to Tuesday. Tuesday, like, I was going to call you for prayer, and I did not. But guess what? I was gone because it was a fire. So my great niece, she lost all of her belongings. I was going to the Marshalls to get her some undergarments and some things. And who do I see? You. You're coming out. I'm going in, and I text you. Was like, hey, are you at the shopping center? And you was like, which one? Chick-fil-A. And I'm like, yes. I was going to get that, and I was like, at that point, I was like, I don't even have the voice to talk to you to tell you yet again that this is what I'm facing. So I didn't call you, but I passed you, and we text, you know, and I was just like, I just can't tell her. I was like, I'm not telling anybody. I didn't post it on, they were doing GoFundMe. I was like, I'm not posting this on my Facebook. I will do what I need to do behind the scenes, but I cannot do this, right? So go around the way, we go through it, and I'm like, oh my God. But when I tell you, this is how God works. I just went through everything twice. So I know like the back of my hand, the obituary, the steps that you need to go. Right. I guided them through everything without
your misery becomes your ministry.
God, what? No, just for that one time. Guided them through everything, going through like here, collecting, coordinating. Yeah. When we went to the church Temple of Praise, I kid you not, they left out 2 steps that you go through. I'm like, excuse me, you all forgot about the da-da-da and forgot about the da-da-da. And
you missed
like,
that.
You know, like, okay. But I knew it like the back of my hand. And I thank God that I was able to be there to support them through the entire process. So fast forward, I'm thinking I got this. Normally, you know, before every major funeral, I call you or we have our date. Like, pray with me the night before. Right. I thought I had this, right? I didn't reach out to you for prayer that night. You know what I'm saying? I didn't reach out to you. I had this. Oh my God, we met up for last minute things like 11 o'clock. We ended up leaving 12, so it was the mother, the father, and my niece. So it's my great niece, but my niece. So all of us there, we're going over things. They're good. Their spirit is good, right? We all depart. I get home. I'm no good. It's too late to call you now. It's 1 o'clock, and I am like, oh my God. That next morning, I was late. I came in right in time for the funeral. I couldn't do the viewing 3, but I couldn't do any of that. But I say this to say, like, God will use you, and the Holy Spirit will direct you to do all of these various things. Yeah. Like, I could really help people, but I was like, oh no. But yeah, I'm telling you, I was like, I'm good. I got this. I'm doing all this. I got home, was like, oh my God. And I was like, I'm telling you, I was this close to calling you. I was this close to calling you. And I was like, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. I was like, oh my God. So I had to put my big girl panties on and go through what I went through. But wow. But yeah, so definitely with that. And I'm going to go down this list. We're not going to talk through them, but go down. So Donna Meyersbach, she has an article that she wrote, 15 tips to help you get through the early stages of grief. And it also can help you with healing. But Reverend Smith had shared this with 2 months ago. But 1, get rest. 2, make lists. Make lists so that you don't forget things, and make lists of things that you want to do to honor your loved one. Cry. Like, cry. Crying is fleshing out. Talk to a friend. Make sure you have a trusted person you can talk to. Write it out. Lord knows, I think I'm writing it right. Every time you turn around, a book, a journal, an anthology, or something. But as long as I got it in me, it's coming out. Exercise. So I've been doing my little exercising thing after I gained all that weight and lost it back. Ask for help when you need it. That's the struggle that I have. Asking for help. Eat regularly. Drink a lot of water. Number 10, breathe. Breathe. That's a whole different show. For years, I wasn't breathing right. from my asthma as a kid, I never learned how to breathe correctly. Never learned how to breathe correctly. Just came to realization of that this year. So I've been breathing wrong all the time.
Your life.
Girl, 11, pray or meditate. I cannot say more to that. Laugh. I'm real like goofy when it gets to laughing and jokes. I have jokes playing inside my head. So sometimes people don't even get what I'm cracking up laughing at. End each day by giving thanks for your blessing. Always, not just Thanksgiving. Every day, there's always something to be thankful for. Go to bed around the same time every night. You'll be surprised at this. No, I'm in bed by 9:30.
What?
Normally, like, drifted off by 10 or so. Like, it's not even, my whole life has changed. And I get 8 hours. I get 8 hours every, yes. Like, over the weekend, I didn't go to sleep because I was working on this project and I got like 1 hour. This morning, I overslept. I did everything. My body requires that 8 hours. And go at your own pace. That goes with healing.
I love it.
At grieving and healing, go at your own pace. So last one, the closeout.
I need that list.
Oh, definitely. I'll send it to you. I got it from Mount Ina. I'm glad to resend it back to you.
Please.
But next, giving yourself permission to live again. During the discussion last week with Reverend Smith, that came up. And she said it, but also Pastor Davida Stewart, she said it also. She's my guest next week. But I heard this statement and I preceded it with, healing is giving yourself permission to live again. I really love that. So I definitely want you to talk about that, because on the flip side of it, my modern day miracle is what I call it. I felt some guilt. So giving yourself permission to live again, and healing is giving yourself permission to live again. Talk to me.
Yeah. Guilt is a trick of the enemy, guilt, regret, all of those things that you may experience. And some of those may be things you have to reconcile and deal with. But as we said earlier, and I always think about the book of Joshua in the first chapter, when Moses passed and God spoke to him and he said, Moses, my son, is dead. Now get up. Right? Those were the words that I always embrace, that command, get up, right? And as he told Joshua, so he says the same to us, that, you got a song to sing, you got a book to write, you got a job to do, you got a problem to solve, all of it, God has given us, and we're here. We are still here because our assignment on this earth has not been complete. It has not been fulfilled. And so as long as we're here, we need to know that we're here for a purpose. See, you talked about Jeremiah and the first chapter and the 5th verse. That was the record of Jeremiah's call, right? And so and Jeremiah was timid, unlike you said, you're not timid. I know I had some timidity to me when I was called. And so that was the first passage when I got my call to ministry that, was repeated to me over and over again by mentors and people who wanted me encouraged that before I formed you in the belly of your mother's womb, I called you and I ordained you, right? It. And so God is saying to all of us that if we're still living, that we're here for a purpose, and the purpose is his, right? It's not about our plans. It's not about the things that we choose or want to do, but more importantly, it's about his purpose for our lives. And so, yes, give yourself permission to do what you've been created to do, right? Yeah. And that is to make his praise glorious. And how do you do that? By fulfilling your commandment on this life, to leave the world a better place than you found it. And that's by doing what he sent you here to do. And I think that creates that space and that opportunity for us to move forward, give ourselves permission to live and enjoy life. You talked about Thanksgiving, and you talked about laughing and loving and living. It's about all of that. Yeah. It's about all of that.
Yeah, and the timing of like how my life has gone, it shot by so fast that as it was approaching that first year, I was doing something and I was like, oh my God, like 1 year? 1 year is next week. And
Right.
I again, I honestly will say, um I trust in God. I understand that it's God, and I know that it's Him. I know that I know that I know that it's Him. And I'm just being open and honest with it. There's a component of me that has felt, and I don't know the right word. I'm gonna say guilt. That's my best way to like explain it. It's not guilt. It's not guilt. It's not guilt. It's something else. I don't know the name right now, but I'll explain it. When I'm in grief and sorrow sessions, when I'm having discussions with people, I'm ministering to people who are in the deep depth of this type of pain, right? And I've been there before. Trust me. Oh my God. Like, I've been there several times before. But through my mother, my sister, like the level and the sense of peace and comfort that I have, unexplainable. I know that's God. Ephesians 3:20. Know that. I got that and understand that, right? When I'm by myself, overly grateful, thankful, God, I don't know. I know it's no way that I can repay you. Just give me another help me, let me pay you back. And I'm going to praise you. So just tell me what I need to do. But when I'm around other people or when I'm with people who have lost their mom or just different things like that, my point to say is we all grieve differently. I've hurt before, but like my situation is like unmerited favor. It's like
Right.
something that's like so. I can't explain it. My thing is when I'm giving my testimony, but when you're in the midst of people pouring out crying, right? It's I pull back sometimes because here I am going through this and I'm like explaining like what happened. And then they're on the other line, oh my God, take me, you know what I mean? So I'm growing in that area because I know that I'm being used in my messages that God will see you through it, right? God will see you through any and every situation. But I'm definitely praying on that so that I can make sure that I continue to be His vessel. And it's always God get the glory. It's God, God, God. But then, in the other hand, people are where they are, and they're given thing. And if they're it's hard to explain, but I did feel a level of because I know like it's nothing that I did to deserve it, but seeing other people going through their process has been something that's like challenging to me. And as you can see, I'm never speechless, but I don't have quite the words to say it. Didn't plan to say
The
it, but
word,
yeah.
the one word that comes to my mind and has been as you've been speaking, it's really about grace, Ladrine. Like God has
Yes.
just, shown you and given you grace in this space that has allowed you to carry this burden and to, process it and receive it in such a way that He's, and again, and I'm the whole show in my mind has been playing and ringing Daryl Coley's He's
Oh
Preparing
my
Me.
God.
Yeah, He's preparing me. And so that's what I would say for you. I mean, from your illness to your Bible study to your dedication and prayer to all the things that I watched you along this journey, He prepared you for your mother's passing and your sister's passing, even when you didn't know it was coming. He prepared you for what, when we only get enough light for the step that we're on, God is doing amazing things. God
Yeah.
is doing mammoth things. He
Yeah.
gave you the vision for the book, now the journal, now the healing candles. Hallelujah. and he's just getting started. So
Yeah, yep. All for his glory, all for his glory. Reverend
Yep.
Rice, thank you so much. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
you as always coming on the show. Love you, all that good stuff. How can people contact you? How can people reach you?
Oh yeah, I'm on on Facebook and Instagram, A Colette Rice all together. Um, and then certainly my website, seeing CING his works .com. And that's me.
All right. Thank you so much. I
Thank
appreciate you.
you. Thank you for having
Oh my
me.
goodness, y'all. What a show. So I didn't shout out any of the people, but Latasha Briscoe, Pastor Davita Gang Stewart, Tony Lee, Sharice Kiki Brown Mercer, LaShawn Reese Briscoe, and Marcella Stretch. Everybody who joined, thank you so much for joining the show. Real good show, real good show, real good show, real good information. Grieving and healing. And next up, we're gonna be talking about mending. So I'm playing around with the topics, but Pastor Davita Stewart definitely will be here. We're gonna touch upon how do you mend a broken heart, a new thing, and giving yourself permission to live. December themes, looking back to move forward. That's our theme for December. And then don't forget to watch next week. I'm going to be launching the Healing Journal. I am so excited about that. And other than that, please make sure that you follow us on all social media platforms. Let's do a talk show. And I will see you all next week. Bye. Have a great one.